Hi, it's Lauren from Headstrong Women, and I'm here with Carolyn Creswell of Carman's. How are you, Carolyn?
Good, thank you.
Fantastic. Look, we've got some really great questions and we'll get started. So, look, your journey from buying a 50% share in a small muesli business for $1,000 with a friend to becoming managing director and 100% owner of internationally successful company Carman's obviously didn't happen overnight or without a lot of hard work. So what's been the key to your personal success and sustainability?
I think personal success is really about happiness, and don't ever think that success is about money or about how important your title is. I think it's about, feeling happy in the aspects of your life. And so to me, that, if you talk about personal success, that's what I would think about. And I am a very, very happy person. I feel really blessed. I've got 4 beautiful, healthy children under 11 and, happily married. And I think that that's kind of a really obviously, that is part of my life and who I am. And in the work sense, I think it's been about just trying to do the best that I can, with the resources I've got every year, so that the business gets a little bit better year on year.
Yeah.
And, I never imagined it would be as big as it is today, so I feel, I was shocked as anyone, I can tell you.
No, look, that's fantastic. And I think you've hit on a key point there too, that that success, you're right, isn't necessarily about that money. You really do need the happiness behind you and that other fulfilment. That's great.
And I think that people sometimes lose sight of that. And, sometimes people can just keep working crazy hours for more money, but what for? I think what happens in your 4 walls when you go home at night and that feeling inside your house, that feeling inside your life is what really matters. And you have one chance of having a life that's sort of rich and meaningful and with great connections with people. And I think that is what's the essence of success.
Yeah, no, fantastic point. Which kind of brings me to the next question as well. You wear many, many hats. So we've got Managing Director of Carman's, wife, mother of 4 young kids, you said under 11, which makes you very busy. Speaker, you're a board member, you're an ambassador and a mentor. So what's your advice to other women who are also managing several different roles?
The first thing is that we all have the same number of hours in the day, and it's just really important to think what you'll say yes and no to. So if someone came up to you in the street and asked for $20, you'd say no. But if they ask you for 20 minutes, you go, yeah, that's fine. And I'm not saying not to give them the 20 minutes, but the one thing that you're running out of is time.
Yeah.
And so really making sure that you choose how to spend your time wisely and what things. Like, for example, for me, I love my girlfriend, but I often don't do sort of coffee dates because I go, do you know what, that could just take up, 2 hours, and I'm really sort of conscious of what things serve my life.
Yeah.
And what things maybe, and I'm, I've got lots of friends and I definitely have, great connections. I'm not trying to say I don't prioritise them, but I think that sometimes some things can take a lot of time and saying, okay, well, hang on, how's the best way to use my time? And, and the same thing with your family. So for me, weekends is family time and, we really prioritise that as family time. And then, how, it's really that mindfulness. And I think you'll hear a lot of people talking about that of being in the moment, when I'm at work, really being present and then when I get home being, present and, mindful of that being the current reality that I'm in.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess that ties in very much to what you were saying with prioritising to get that satisfaction out of life, because you're very right in saying that the only thing we are running out of is quite literally time.
Yeah. So, for example, I'll listen to a podcast while I'm going for a walk, or so you'll often do, 2 things because you think, oh, well, that's a way of learning. Stuff like, when I had my 3rd baby, I gave up watching TV because I was like, look, it's a luxury, and yes, I enjoy collapsing onto the couch and getting lost in something as much as someone else, but I was like, oh, do you know what, I actually would rather have heaps of sleep, and I really prioritise sleep to make sure that I get into bed early, and you know, and so I just think it's the little things. Like I remember when I think it was my second child, I gave up painting my fingernails because I was like, it's not so much the going to a little, you know, local shop where you get them done. It's also about the fact that they start chipping, and it's that whole. It was just one less thing that that didn't serve my life. And I thought, if someone doesn't want to really be friends with me, or doesn't think I'm as whatever because I don't know paint a fingernail, so be it. And so it's those little things constantly of thinking, hang on, is this something that serves my life? Is this something that I think is working for me, and making decisions about what things do and don't work for you.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So what have been some of the hardest lessons that you've had to learn through your career so far, and how have you grown because of them?
Look, I think one of the big ones, I know this sounds really trite, but is to tell the truth. And sometimes, you know, you can get caught up in business, and, you know, you might be going through rough times financially, or, you know, you aren't able to continue, you know, giving business to a certain company that you've become friendly with, and you can wrap yourself up in little white lies. And I think trying to be as nice as you can with telling someone how it really is far more powerful than trying to sort of, you know, wash it under the carpet or whatever. So, you know, I think that's one of the things that I've learned. You know, business is tricky, and I would say that, you know, it's complicated, and trying to simplify it as much as you can and work on what the things you really need to work on and what things you don't is one of the kind of, you know, finding that clarity, and the clarity in your personal life and the clarity in your work life. Sometimes you need to put yourself out of it. You know, I do a lot of, you know, how you say, oh, look, I thought that in the shower or on the plane, because sometimes we don't give ourselves enough time where we can actually have thinking time.
Yeah.
So I try and make sure that I give myself some space to kind of mull over stuff with a bit of thinking time.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And again, I suppose, you know, everything is tying very much into prioritising and that quality over quantity stuff, I suppose. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I'd also say, though, systemising of working out what things, you know, like, people laugh that you know, my 5-year-old, she's just turned 5 daughter, can get up, she gets herself dressed, she can make her bed, you know, she's brushed her teeth before she comes downstairs, because she just knows that, you know, that's the system of it happens, you know, with 4 kids in our house. And sometimes I think that we do things, and what we realise, if you can fish for someone, but what, you know, or you can constantly give someone a fish, and what you need to do is teach them to fish.
Yeah.
And so whether it's, you know, when you know, it's like that McDonald's concept of how do we systemize, how do we work out, and how do we actually, like, make sure that our kids are doing everything that they are actually capable of, so that it can free you up as well. Yeah, yeah.
So, speaking of the kids as well, you promote several family-friendly practices at Carman. So, as an employer, what impact has that had on your business, and what would you say to encourage other employers to follow your lead? And would you be able to give us a bit of an idea on what some of those family-friendly practices are?
Well, I think firstly it's an overriding attitude that your family comes first.
Yeah.
So if you've got a sick child, or there's, you know, a sports day you need to go and watch, or, you know, someone's getting your board in assembly, that's where you've got to be, and that work just understands that need in your life. I think the other thing is that and to have trust in people of saying, well, just go and do that, but you'll make up the time and it's fine. Like, people don't need to ask permission to do that. They just need, you know, they just manage their time to do that as effectively as they can. So then, you know, I think, you know, it's all just little things around just being able to treat people as people with complex needs and family needs, and really try and give them the scope in their life, whether that is, I want to do the school drop-off like I do, or whether that's, I want to get in here early so I can get home and be there to help do the homework at the end of the day. Whatever that is, you know, it's not a cookie-cutter approach for every person, because they might have a partner doing one end of the day and they can do the other. So just working, or just being flexible, and I think flexibility is probably the big key to that piece.
Okay. I think it shows that you've got a great deal of respect within your team as well. Using the word trust, it really is that respect that, you know, you can trust everybody to be doing their roles when they're at work, but doing their roles when they're not at work as well. So I think that's something that every employer should aspire to.
And, you know, to me, it's just to treat people like you'd like to be treated yourself. That's probably the key essence.
Yeah, it's a pretty good saying to live by, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to other women who are considering self-employment?
Look, I do think it's fantastic. It's just that often in the start-up business, it's quite hard to get it set up. You can feel a bit lost in the fog. So try and keep doing, you know, if you can, just do it at nights and weekends. If you were, you know, if you had money coming in elsewhere, the hardest thing is to rely on the money of the business to live on day one. So, you know, sort of test and, you know, and if you might have an opportunity to get involved in something that might be a little bit established that, you know, like for me, it was only a tiny business, but at least it was more than just an actual startup from scratch. And I do think it's great, but then I also think that don't think it's the whole nirvana of perfection to think that, you know, is this the right thing for your personality? So for some people, you know, if you're organised and you're self-motivated, you know, yes, your own business is great, but if you think, do you know what, I'm just not sure that I want to be constantly putting that pressure on myself every day, you know, don't think that it's for everyone.
Yeah, that's a big part of what we talk about in terms of career development is really clarifying what works for you and what your goals are. So I absolutely think you've hit on a really key point there, and it is what works for you intrinsically. And,
you know, for sometimes for people, you know, it's not about having the biggest and the best job, the biggest and the best title. It's about thinking, I would love it if every week, if that's what I was out doing, that would just be so meaningful. And, you know, like I was speaking to an ambulance officer the other day, and she's like, I have got the best job in the world. And for her, she just loved it. She loved the diversity and whatever. So think about, you know, it really is relating to who you are as a person and what you'd love to think you're doing every day. And that is not going to be the same for everyone. Yeah. And so it's not like this nirvana that we all want to be a movie star and that would just be the best job in the world, because, you know, trust me, I've worked in TV and it's a challenging job. So I think it's about who you are and what would really sort of serve your personal purpose of what you'd love to think that you were achieving, what your life would look like. And I think that's really important to have that sort of proper dialogue with yourself and perhaps reassess if you think you've gone down a path that's not right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Yeah. Okay. Carolyn, they're the questions that I'd sent through to Melanie. I do have a few more, but I completely understand that you're in a time frame as well.
No, I'm good. So
oh, fantastic.
Fire away.
Thank you. So you became a business owner at a really young age and you learned on the job every single day. Do you think that it was an advantage going into it without preconceptions or prior experience?
I do, because I think that instead of saying, well, this is how it needs to be done, I kind of built a business from the heart. Yeah. And I built one that was like, well, this is how I'd like to be treated, and this is where I think, you know, if this is what I'd like in a brand, and I'd like a brand to be very personal, and so to me that sense of viewing it just with fresh kind of innocent eyes was definitely an advantage. Yeah,
fantastic. Obviously a really resilient person. So what do you think's contributed to that?
I mean, I think there's a certain point, like for the first few years, but, you know, I just have always had the thing that, you know, you can't expect it all to, you know, to get the account or everything to be perfect first try, and so just to pick yourself up. And I think that's probably one of the biggest traits that I had with confidence, of going, oh, look, you know, I feel comfortable with who I am and secure, but well, if you don't like this, that's all right. And, you know, I'll come back in 6 months and I'll present this in a different way or whatever it is. And I think that if you can build up someone's confidence, and through that, it's not about false confidence. You know, I looked at with my kids and trying to say, you know, of what things, you know, and I think through building confidence, it's also about independence. So for the kids, as much as you can, you know, my guys sometimes, they're little and I'll have them at the front of the supermarket saying, you guys just stop by, whatever you want to buy for dinner, you're cooking dinner tonight, and, here's the budget, work it out. And so that sense of, wow, look what I am capable of. And so I think if you've been brought up in an environment which is a bit like, wow, I am capable of so much, then that helps you feel confident that whatever life throws at you, you can give it a go. But if you sort of always feel I'm going to fail and I'm going to be hopeless and whatever, it's trying to build up that internal confidence in yourself that gives you such a boost in your career and I guess in your life journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that ability to be able to learn from mistakes as well, that they're not necessarily failures, but it's not the way that you'll do it next time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that I think sometimes people don't set themselves up to think, all right, well, I'm going to get 10 failures before I get one success. I mean, I think Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken took his chicken recipe to 1,000 people before someone eventually said yes, they'd give it a go. So that sort of stuff where it's just about continually knocking on doors and continually trying and continually thinking, oh, well, I might tweak it this way or whatever, that can kind of help evolve where your direction is heading.
Yeah, completely. So who are some of the women that you look up to for inspiration?
I mean, I guess the first one, I think it sounds corny, but my mum.
Yeah.
And for me, that sense of just having a really happy life, having a strong family life, having a lot of friends, and sort of, being a really community-minded person.
Yeah.
So, I think she's amazing. And I'd say, people often ask me about mentors as well, and I say, well, I just think there's a lot of people that I admire and for certain things that they've done, but I don't necessarily hang off every word in every aspect of what they say.
Yeah.
I've met people along my journey. I think Janine Ellis from Boost Juice is fabulous, and she really is the healthy persona of what Boost stands for, and obviously she's involved in lots of other businesses now.
Yeah.
I think the design sense of Christina Carlson from PKK is amazing for the creative design and how she lives that through her life. And then people like Gail Kelly in the banking industry, Elizabeth Broderick in discrimination. There's so many amazing women. But like I said, it's not about sort of holding them on a pedestal. For me, it's about finding that purpose and that meaning in your own life and living the richest life you sort of can yourself.
Yeah, and certainly finding, I suppose, what resonates for you at a particular time, maybe as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it was different before I had my kids to after. Really, the growth of Carman has happened. I had one employee 4 hours a week when I had my firstborn baby, and now the business has all grown since I had my children. So don't feel having children holds you back. I feel it's been an amazing. Clarifying experience for me of what things I should and shouldn't do and how to spend my time more effectively than I was before.
Yeah. That's a really good way of putting it too. I think being more effective with your time, and you're a huge advocate for becoming a parent as well as having the career that you want as well. So do you believe in a work-life balance, and how do you kind of maintain yours?
Totally. So for me, it's about saying. So if you can imagine the scales, those old-fashioned scales, and on one side, you've got your work piece, and that you want to feel that you're doing a good job in your career sense, and that you're feeling proud of the way that you're operating in that space. But then that can't just be totally weighed down to nothing in your home life. It can't be ridiculous hours. I never see any of my friends. I don't have a home life.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about saying that, that I leave work at the end of the day and there's sort of almost very little to do still. I mean, obviously I've got tasks that I think, tomorrow I'll be doing this, but, but my inbox is almost empty and I'm feeling under control. But then I can go home and just totally connect with my family and have that rich kind of home life. And so to me, that's what the balance is about, of being able to walk away from the business side so that you can walk into the home side. And if you're finding there's too much on the business side, go back to that. Am I doing anything that I shouldn't be doing? Is all of my time spent as effectively as possible? And, sometimes you might be going out, yes, you'll go to those work lunches or that networking thing, and that then means that you get back and all that work means that you need to work through until 8 o'clock at night. Well, then you've got to kind of question, should I be going to that lunch, that networking, whatever, so that your time is, you're able to walk out of the door and then really have that other aspect of your life, and whether that's through, exercise, community engagement, family time, friends time, all of the other aspects of your life too.
Yeah.
Your career is just one of the aspects of your life, and I think sometimes people over-dramatise how massive that part needs to be, and my challenge is that if you're driven by happiness, a lot of the happiness comes from the other aspects. And, certainly for me, I'm very proud, I'm very happy of, Carman's been extraordinary, but it is one aspect of my life, not the all-encompassing, aspect.
Yeah, and we're the sum of our parts, not just one part. Yeah, and I guess on that note, you also give back to your community as well quite a lot, and paying it forward, for want of a better way of describing it, is really important to you. So what do you get out of that process, and how does it complement the rest of your life?
For me, I feel that the world has invested more heavily in me in education and power and water and food and all of that than they have with many millions of other kids. And Australians, we're super lucky. So for me, I just feel a sense that it's my duty to kind of give back. And if there's anything that I can help, I do a lot of work with asylum seekers of saying, well, hang on, what can I do to help people that perhaps haven't had the advantages that I've had? And that to me is it's just living with a sense of gratitude. And I think that if you approach each day, how can I help people less fortunate than me? It's a very healthy kind of mindset to have.
Yeah, it definitely helps you keep perspective as well on those things that are, as you say, serving your life, and maintaining that perspective to be present. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Look, thank you so much for your time, Carolyn. I really appreciate it, and you've really hit on some key points that I think are going to resonate with a lot of people.
That is a pleasure.